What would you do if your past haunted you and the future of your child hung in the balance? In the shadows of Alcatraz, Al Capone, once the kingpin of Chicago's underworld, finds himself a forgotten relic, trapped by the very choices that defined him. Behind the hardened exterior lies a man riddled with vulnerabilities, a father who dreams of redemption and a chance to protect his only son, who has unwittingly become entangled with a corrupt politician. The oppressive walls of the prison mirror the suffocating grip of his past, reminding him daily of the mistakes that led him here. As whispers of danger reach him from the outside world, Capone's desperation intensifies. The chaotic streets of Chicago, rife with betrayal and violence, serve as a stark reminder of the life he once ruled and the son he fears he may lose. In this perilous landscape, Capone faces a daunting choice: to remain a prisoner of fate or to risk everything for a sliver of hope, his son's future, and perhaps his own salvation. Al Capone sat on the cold, hard bench of his prison cell, the shadows closing in around him. His thoughts raced with the weight of his past misdeeds and the imminent threat to his son, who had unknowingly crossed paths with the very corruption that had ensnared Capone himself. Each day, the walls of Alcatraz felt more suffocating, reflecting the turmoil within him. He was a man who had once commanded respect, but now he was a ghost, haunted by the life he had led and the choices that had led to his incarceration. As he pondered his son's precarious situation, Capone's mind was abruptly interrupted by a visit from his old associate Johnny, whose desperate eyes told a story of their own. Johnny had managed to slip through the cracks of the law, a reminder of the life Capone had left behind. "They're on to him, Al. The politician has eyes everywhere. We need to get him out of this mess," Johnny urged, his voice laced with urgency. Capone felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. He had fought tooth and nail to escape the life of crime. Yet here was a reminder of how easily it could ensnare his son. Memories of his own father's sacrifices flooded his mind, intensifying his resolve. But how could he protect his son from a distance, shackled by his own past? The emotional stakes were rising, and Capone's vulnerability began to show. He had always been a man of action, but now he felt paralyzed, teetering between the desire to be a father and the fear of dragging his son into a world he had tried to escape. As he wrestled with this inner turmoil, he realized that to save his son, he might have to confront the very demons he had fought so hard to bury. Capone's heart raced with doubt, yet he felt a flicker of determination igniting within him. If he couldn't save himself, he would save his son. But how to navigate a world that had always betrayed him? As he prepared to reach out for help, he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that lingered in the air. Old friends turning into adversaries, alliances crumbling, and the ghosts of his past threatening to engulf him. Each step forward felt like a fragile dance between hope and despair, and as he looked into Johnny's eyes, Capone knew he was on the precipice of a choice that could alter the fate of both father and son forever. As Al Capone sat in the dim light of his cell, the gravity of Johnny's words sank deeper into his psyche. The urgency of the situation was palpable. It was not just his son's future at stake, but the very legacy he had fought to redeem. Just as he began to formulate a plan, a sense of dread washed over him. The prison was abuzz with rumors of a new warden, a man known for his ruthless methods and connections to corrupt politicians. This warden had no qualms about using inmates as pawns in his games, and Capone's son had unwittingly become a target. The emotional toll of this new threat was staggering. Every heartbeat felt like a ticking clock, each moment pulling Capone deeper into despair. He could feel the weight of his past pressing down on him, and the thought of his son suffering because of his legacy filled him with rage and helplessness. Capone realized that he could no longer just sit by. He needed to act swiftly and decisively. Johnny, seeing the turmoil on Capone's face, leaned closer. There are whispers of an old connection, a woman who knows the underbelly of this city better than anyone. She might be able to help your son. This woman, however, was not just a fixer. She was a powerful figure in the criminal world, notorious for her unpredictable loyalties. It was a gamble, and Capone felt the stakes rising. Trusting her could either save his son or drag them both back into the abyss. Capone's mind raced with doubt. Could he ally himself with someone who thrived on chaos? Would reaching out to her be a betrayal of his newfound principles? The fear of losing his son intensified, forcing him to confront his own demons and the very nature of the life he once led. He could feel the tension between his desire for redemption and the ghostly allure of the underworld he had tried to escape. As the days passed, Capone noticed the changes in Johnny too. The once sharp edge of loyalty was dulled by the burden of the situation. Johnny, ever the survivor, seemed torn between loyalty to Capone and the instinct to preserve himself. This shift was unsettling. The foundation of their long-standing friendship felt fragile under the weight of external pressures. Capone knew he had to act before it was too late. Collecting his thoughts, he made a decision to reach out to the mysterious woman. The thought sent chills down his spine, plunging him into a realm of uncertainty and danger. The path ahead was fraught with potential betrayal, but the urgency to protect his son burned brighter than the fear of the past he had fought so hard to leave behind. As he prepared to make the call, he realized that this was not just a fight for his son's future. It was a battle for his own redemption, a chance to reclaim the man he had once aspired to be. As Al Capone sat in his cell, the reality of his situation shifted dramatically when he received an unexpected visitor. It was not the usual prison guard, but a man dressed in a crisp suit, carrying an air of authority and confidence that sent a chill down Capone's spine. The man introduced himself as a representative of the new warden, a reminder of the dangerous game being played outside these walls. He carried a message. Capone's son was in danger, and the warden had plans to use him against Capone in a twisted scheme to assert control over the prison. The moment felt like a thunderclap, jolting Capone from his thoughts and forcing him to confront the very real threat looming over Johnny. The emotional impact was staggering, an icy grip of fear wrapped around his heart, squeezing tighter with each word the man spoke. Capone's mind raced, the shadows of his past colliding with the urgency of the present. He felt both anger and despair, a heady mix that ignited a fire within him. This encounter crystallized Capone's resolve, transforming his hesitance into a fierce determination. He understood now that the stakes had escalated beyond his son's future. It was about survival, about breaking free from the shackles of his past and protecting those he loved. The thought of Johnny suffering because of the legacy he had built was unbearable, and Capone was willing to do whatever it took to shield him from harm. In that moment, a new path emerged before him. He realized that reaching out to the woman Johnny had mentioned was no longer just a gamble. It was a necessity. With the warden's influence creeping closer, Capone felt the weight of time pressing down on him. There was no room for doubt or hesitation. He had to act swiftly and decisively. The emotional upheaval left him breathless, but it also sparked something deep within. In the face of impending danger, Capone understood that he could no longer just be a man shackled by his past mistakes. He needed to reclaim his agency. This was not just a fight for his son's safety, it was a chance to redefine his legacy. As he prepared to reach out to the enigmatic woman, he felt the flicker of hope ignite in his chest. He was ready to face whatever consequences lay ahead, armed with the newfound clarity that this turning point had gifted him. As the days passed in his cell, Al Capone's resolve solidified into a sharp, unyielding edge. He had learned that the warden's grip tightened around his son Johnny, like a noose and the looming threat of his boy being used as leverage against him ignited a powerful fury. It was time to put his plan into action. Al's heart pounded as he prepared to confront the warden directly, a man who represented everything he despised, yet now stood as the greatest obstacle to protecting his son. The visit to the warden's office was a calculated risk, but Al knew the stakes. As he entered the stark room, the warden sat behind a large desk, his demeanor cold and calculating. "I hear you've been making plans, Capone," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "What do you think you can do from behind these bars?" Al felt the weight of the warden's taunts, but he stood tall, the lessons of his past failures flooding back to him. He had spent years building a criminal empire, but now he was stripped of that power. It was a different kind of strength he needed to summon, one rooted in love and desperation. "You leave my son out of this," Al demanded, his voice steady, despite the storm raging inside him. "I won't let you manipulate him." The warden leaned back, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "And what will you do if I refuse? You have nothing, no allies, no power. You're just a man in a cage." In that moment, Al's fear transformed into fierce determination. He recalled the woman he had reached out to, the one who had promised to help. He had to trust in her ability to rally support from the outside, to turn the tide in his favor. "You think you can break me? You don't know me," he replied, his voice rising with conviction. "I've faced worse than you." The atmosphere crackled with tension as the warden's expression shifted from amusement to anger. "You're playing a dangerous game, Capone," he warned, leaning forward. But Al felt empowered, knowing that he was fighting not just for himself, but for the future of his son. As they locked eyes, something shifted, an unspoken understanding that this confrontation was a turning point. Al realized that his past, filled with darkness and betrayal, could not dictate his future. With renewed clarity, he declared, "If you harm my son, I will unleash every connection I have left. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The warden's facade cracked, revealing a flicker of uncertainty. In that moment, Al had turned the tide in their battle, reclaiming not only his voice, but also his agency. The fear that had once paralyzed him transformed into a fierce resolve that resonated throughout the room. The outcome of this confrontation might still be uncertain, but Al felt a profound shift within himself. He was no longer just a man trapped in his past. He was a father ready to fight for the life he desperately wanted for his son. With that realization, the conflict within Al reached a boiling point, solidifying his path forward. The emotional weight of the moment settled into his bones, but it was accompanied by an exhilarating sense of hope. Whatever lay ahead, he was prepared to face it head-on, knowing that he had found the strength to protect what mattered most.